Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Sports Card Nation. Sports Card Nation. Sports Card Nation.
All right, Sports Card Nation podcast back again for another week. Episode 60, the big 6-0. My name is John Newman. I'll be your host for today's show. Like Derek Jeter, I'm going to ask you to put your cell phones in the basket as you come in. All joking aside, if you're using your phone to listen to the show, don't do that, please. Little Derek Jeter joke. Newly minted Hall of Famer. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the hobby sports segment. My guest today, someone I know very well, a very close friend of mine. We do another podcast together called Roughing the Passer, a live video NFL podcast. You may know him as the host of that Let Me Get That Podagraph podcast, Drew Herndon. And we're going to talk about football. We're both football guys, as obviously doing that football podcast. And so I want to talk about the year in review. With the now that the year's pretty much closed and there are only two teams standing, we're going to talk about the 2019 rookie class. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl a little bit, and maybe compare the 2019 class to 2018. We're going to talk about Panini blockchain. I know that's a big topic. I've talked about it on this show. He's talked about it on his show, and we have yet to put our ideas or thoughts together, so I'm gonna get his feedback on that. So great show. We're giving away 5 free PSA grading submissions at the 45-day turnaround level, courtesy of Iron Sports Cards and Rob Valente. Thanks, Rob, for hooking one of our listeners up. There'll be a way to enter online on Twitter, but on this show, listen later on in the show for a way to get a additional entry. So you get 2 chances to win, and we'll announce that winner before next week's show. Next month, each week in February, we're going to give away a $50 break credit to 101 Card Shop each and every week, courtesy of Steve Chada, one of our sponsors as well. Both Rob from Iron Sports Cards and Steve Chada from 101 are both sponsors of the program. Glad to have them. Great companies, great men, and you know, I can't be more pleased to have them as part of the show. So the next 5 out of the next 6 weeks, you're going to be able to win something from the show, from break credit to PSA submissions. Not a lot of shows do something like that every week. We try to, and we're going to continue to do that. So listen and maybe win. Can't beat that. So thanks for joining us. We'll get started. It's time for What's Cracking. All right, let's start with the big story. It's obviously Zion Williamson's NBA rookie debut. Took place on Wednesday night against the San Antonio Spurs. He got off to a little sluggish start. Obviously, his minutes were limited as instructed by the medical staff. He basically played 4 bursts, 1 in each quarter. He wound up playing 18 minutes, but that fourth quarter is where he announced he made his presence known, if you will. 4 for 4 from the three-point line, not something he's actually known for. Wound up with 22 points, 17 straight in that fourth quarter. A new record, actually. Most points in their debut when playing under 20 minutes. So he holds that record. Also became the first player in NBA history to go 4 for 4 from three-point range in their first game ever. So even in a game where he didn't play a ton of minutes, he basically broke 2 records. He made his presence felt. They took him out with 5 minutes left. They actually rallied to take the lead against the Spurs. They wound up taking him out with 5 such minutes left. You could tell he wasn't happy, wanted to stay in, and he never came back in, and the Spurs wound up coming back again and hanging on to the victory. So after a sluggish start where he had a couple turnovers, looked a little slow initially to me, but really turned it on in the second half. And again, I think the big issue, or the big question mark, I should say, is going to be, how healthy can he stay? How many games a season can he play, and will that frame hold up? And so test 1 is in the books. He looked very good. He looked like a dominant type player, rebounding, scoring. I think he wound up with 7 rebounds and a few assists. And so, he made his presence known. He's arrived, like it or not, whatever you think of him. When it comes to the hobby, if you're a buyer, you're a seller, he's here, and it's exciting. I'm not going to lie. I've made my opinion known. I am concerned about the frame on the legs and knees, but you never know. You never know, and you gotta give him the benefit of the doubt. And so far, pretty exciting second half of that game, and hopefully for him, he's for all intents and purposes, he's a good kid. You root for a good kid, and you could tell. One thing I noticed is you could tell he was excited to finally be playing, and he didn't want to come out, and that shows you something. So it'll be exciting to see how the rest of his season goes. And on a night where he performed very well, at least in the second half, Ja Morant had his probably worst game as a pro, only hitting 1 shot from the field, scoring 2 points in a loss to the Celtics. So funny, on the same night, a tale of two players. But that's an anomaly for Ja. I think Ja's one of the best players in this rookie class, and maybe the best, and that includes Zion. So just an off night for him, and it's going to be exciting. A lot of nice rookies in the NBA this year. Just when you thought the 2018 class couldn't be beat, I think this 2019 class is right there, maybe better even, with more depth. So from the start of one career to the end of another, Eli Manning, Giants quarterback, or I should say former Giants quarterback, hung him up Wednesday. Kind of a little surprised. I thought he was going to play another year. I thought he'd want to go out, almost on like a farewell tour, but that's not really Eli's MO. So he retires, and very quiet fanfare. It wasn't a big to-do. It was just kind of came out as a news story, and I'm sure he'll have a press conference, but kind of a quiet retirement. I'm a little surprised that, like I said, I thought he was going to play one more year. I thought he would want his career to end playing in a game rather than watching Daniel Jones play that last game. But that's it. I think he's probably a Hall of Famer. What say you? Some feedback there. But I think the Super Bowls definitely get him in. So maybe not a first ballot. That'd be interesting to see if he is the first ballot. But, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks that have pretty good body of work usually get in. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame's got 2 new entries. One we definitely knew was going to happen, which was Derek Jeter, and he did not get in unanimously. One voter did not vote for him, and that voter probably shouldn't identify himself because Yankees Nation is looking for him to string him up. I understand the big deal, but I don't. You get in, you get in. I'm sure it's cool to say you're the second unanimous player with Rivera being the first, but irregardless of that, he gets in pretty much unanimously as expected. And the other one, a little surprised on his last year of eligibility, Larry Walker. But, he has the numbers. When you really look at it, he does have the numbers. He definitely has better numbers than some guys that are already in. Some will make the argument that he's kind of compiled stuff, but guy was one of the better hitters during his time, and gets in. So, congrats to Larry Walker, Derek Jeter, your 2020 Hall of Fame inductees for baseball. Curt Schilling falls short again. Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, same thing as well. And speaking of Derek Jeter, a couple Derek Jeter's items are on the auction block at Golden's Auctions until February 22nd. Pretty cool items. The original scouting report of Derek Jeter when he was in high school. Those are always pretty cool if you've ever seen them. And his first uniform he wore when he got called up to the Yankees. And it actually was Bernie Williams. So they didn't have a jersey, I guess, ready. Kind of unique conversation piece. So it was Bernie Williams' worn jersey, but Jeter took it for about 15 games. And in that, he made his Major League debut. And in the same jersey, he got his first Major League hit. That's already got a bid. I believe it's at $70,000 with about a month left. The scouting report has not got a bid yet, and the starting bid there is $50,000. So if you're a Yankee collector or Jeter fan, some crazy conversation, pieces of history, his original scouting report and his original first ever game-worn jersey. Pretty cool pieces of history right there. Gritty, the Philadelphia Flyers mascot, reportedly in a little trouble. Allegedly at like a fan fest type event, he supposedly punched a 13-year-old kid. I did read some of the news stories on this. Again, not to pass judgment or opinion. It sounds a little odd, a little suspect in reading what some of the things the father has said. And so innocent until proven guilty, so we'll see how that plays out. But, if he's convicted of assault or whatever it is, or charged with assault, I just wonder, does he have to go to jail in the Gritty costume? That would be kind of neat if so. Patrick Kane is your newest 1,000-point getter in the NHL from the Chicago Blackhawks. So congratulations to Patrick Kane. And while we're talking about things of 1,000, let's talk about Panini blockchain. There has been some sales from the blockchain. Last time we talked, they kind of just were released on the website with no sales yet. They were up there, but there's been 9 cards sold. These I'll name the cards and what they brought. Charles Woodson, $653.07. These are all 1-of-1 patch autos Ohtani is a button jersey auto, 101, $1,795.93. 3 cards brought the same amount each, which was $1,959.19. Those 3 cards were the Jerry Rice multiple color jersey, the DeAndre Hunter Logo Man auto, and the Russell Wilson Logo Man or NFL logo auto. Rui Hachimura, $3,510.21. That was a little surprising when compared to some of these other players. And this one I thought would go for more, quite frankly. The Ja Morant, R.J. Barrett, dual Logo Man, dual auto. Only brought but $3,918.38 for both of their auto. Kevin Garnett, how about this one? $4,653.07. And your leader thus far, Patrick Mahomes, $4,979.60. Not surprising, as he's entering his first Super Bowl and obviously one of the best, if not the best, NFL quarterback in today's game. Some of those surprises me. The Hachimura at $3,500. The Barrett and Morant only at $3,900 for the dual auto, dual Logo Man. So, I guess a lot of its timing is of the essence. A lot of quality control issues based on the pictures of these blockchain cards, sticker autos. A lot of people critical that for such a unique kind of concept that they put sticker autos. A lot of people are pointing out that some of these sticker autos are over things they shouldn't be, or not on particularly straight. So the quality control, as what's becoming kind of the norm with Panini. And you hate to see that on a product like this, all one-on-ones, but I guess it is what it is. And I don't know if Panini's satisfied with these first 9 card sales and what they brought. I know they started them at around $100,000. I'm sure they didn't really think they were going to get that bid, but it was a starting point to lower until someone snapped them up. So I just wonder internally if they're happy with what they've gotten so far. There's more cards on the blockchain site up for sale, and we'll try to keep up with it as best we can and tell you which ones have sold and what they've brought. We're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our great sponsors. When we return, which will be very quickly, we'll talk about the upcoming Super Bowl, Niners, Chiefs.
What's up, Sports Card Nation? Matt here from Firebox Cases. Since I started making fireboxes, one of our slogans has been, keep your fire in, not real fire out. Well, that's not true anymore. Starting today, Firebox does both. Our Firebox Pro line of cases is heat resistant to 194 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's just one element of protection Firebox Pro offers. They are waterproof, dustproof, UV proof, chemical resistant, crush resistant, the list goes on and on. The Pro line hangs its hat on protection, but let's not forget about improved capacity. All Pro models hold huge amounts of slabs, but the big daddy of capacity is the Slab Locker, the hobby's first whole collection solution. It holds an incredible 330 PSA slabs or 205 BGS slabs in any combination, and is still easily portable thanks to its built-in trolley. In fact, all fireboxes are easily portable because Firebox is the only brand of card case that gives you a detachable shoulder strap with every model. You've heard me say it by now, but the hobby isn't in the junk era anymore, so why are you still storing your cards in boxes made of junk? Go to fireboxcases.com today and use promo code SCNPOD to get 10% off your order of a premium case to reflect your premium cards. That's fireboxcases.com, promo code SCNPOD to keep your fire in and real fire out.
So we talked about Mahomes. Let's talk about the Super Bowl, the matchup set. The AFC and NFC championships were not very competitive games, with Kansas City beating up and kind of shutting down the Derrick Henry train, and San Fran shutting down the Green Bay and offense with Aaron Rodgers. And so it's San Fran, Kansas City, one of the best defenses in the NFL with the Niners, and one of the best offenses in the NFL with the Chiefs. You know, the old adage is defense wins championships. If you subscribe to that theory, you probably would pick the Niners to win. I actually do believe in defense wins championships, but I'm going to pick, I just think Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way to win. I know it's his first Super Bowl. Garoppolo's been there before, but Garoppolo's been there watching the masterwork in Tom Brady. So, in a sense, it's his sort of first foray as a starter on the field. So these are both two quarterbacks making their Super Bowl playing debuts, if you will. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes in something like a 28-23 type game. I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be competitive. But I picked the Chiefs before the year started. I'm going to stay with them. And matter of fact, on our Roughing the Passer show, me and Drew Herndon do, in about week 9 or week 10, I made my Super Bowl prediction, and I said it was going to be the Chiefs and the Niners. So I probably should open up my own betting hotline, 1-800 line, but not going to do that. So whoever listened got that for free. Most of the time I'd probably be wrong, but I got that one right. Back to baseball. Marcell Ozuna is the newest Atlanta Brave. He leaves St. Louis to join the Braves in their outfield, which is actually very crowded now, so they'll be making some moves in addition to that to clear up some of that log jam. Your new Mets manager, I'm a Mets fan, is Luis Rojas. I'm okay with it, I guess. I was hoping for a bigger name, but his pedigree's pretty good. He has a lot of experience, not as a major league manager, but as a coach and minor league manager. And I'm reading that the players really, really, really love him. So hopefully that's a good thing as a Met fan. Probably better than Mickey Callaway. So that goes without saying. The million card rip for Topps is fast approaching. We had Steve Chata from 101 Sports Card Shop on last week. Tell us a little bit about that and how it was going to go. Check him out. He's going to be doing some camera phone video live on scene, behind the scenes exclusive footage. Check that out. That should be interesting to say the least. And I wanted to talk about a product. It's not new. It's probably a month old now, but it's the online exclusive from Topps, the Bowman Draft Sapphire. I was able to get 6 boxes of it. I opened one box when it arrived, and I did very well. I got a base Adley and a blue Adley. Still have them, just kind of put them away for now. And so I had 5 boxes left. I wound up selling 2 of those 5, and quite frankly, the 2 that sold went for more than all 6 cost me. So I did well there, kind of covered everything. I still got the 2 Adleys and the other loose cards, and so I have 3 left. I'm putting these away. They've really started to shoot up. When they first were selling online, they were bringing anywhere from about $100 to $130. And now it looks like they're bringing about anywhere from $160 to $190. I think they're drying up. I don't think they made a lot of this product in comparison to a lot of other products. And so I think a lot of it's getting ripped open and a lot of it's starting to dry up. And so the prices are starting to shoot up. I think they'll go up a little bit more. Another thing I've been fortunate enough to do is go around and purchase online some 15-20 card lots of the Sapphire product. It's a nice product because it has a lot of the first Bowmans, of a lot of obviously the draft picks. That's why it's called Bowman Draft. And so there's a lot of unknowns. Some of these can't miss guys will miss, and some of these guys that are sort of unheralded might come out of the woodwork, out of nowhere, and be like a can't miss guy. And that's the beauty of draft, is I like to open less of it and just buy lots of first Bowman cards of them, and if get them cheap, which I did. I've bought about 80 different 80 total singles, and like I said, in these 15 to 20 count lots, and actually very cheaply. And so I'm just I continue to buy them when I can at a good price level, and just put them in a box and kind of wait them out. I'm buying them at a price level where it's not a big deal to just stash them and see what happens. So it's a really nice looking product, as the kind of that cracked ice sort of feel to it, and pink in color. So it's a fun product. I don't think there's going to be a lot of wax left in the near future. So I put those 3 boxes away for a future rainy day or a future sell date. So that's my take on Bowman Sapphire. I know I posted on Twitter that I got 6. I just kind of wanted to throw in an update there of what I did with them and how I'm doing with them. So there you go. All right, happy to have my next guest making his second appearance on the Sports Card Nation podcast, Monster Energy guest line. I know him very well. He's one of my very, very, very good friends. We also do a live video podcast together. We'll talk about that. I'm not going to make him wait any longer. You may know him from his own podcast, Let Me Get That Podagraph. A man that almost needs no introduction, Drew Herndon. Welcome back to the Sports Card Nation.
What's going on, man? Long time no speak. That's quite an introduction. I feel awfully special.
I wrote that myself. It took me about 2 days, but
I've never felt so important. It's nice to be here.
Well, welcome.
Way too much credit.
No. Listen, I've said this on the show. They're shows I listened to before I even did really mine, and yours was one of them. And now, in a sense, we work together. We've gotten to know each other really well, and it's gone beyond just being co-hosts, and we're very good friends. And I know we've talked about that off the air. It's something to, you can't put a price on that, nor would I. So, I brought you on. We're coming down to the end of football season. 2 teams left, obviously. We're both self-professed football, air quotes, experts, if you will. We talked about, I know you've, on your show, I've had you, we've talked about, on this show, about how I felt like the 2018 rookie class was miles ahead of the 2019. But, now that the season's over and you can kind of, minus the one more game, and you can kind of look at what this year's rookie class did, I'm an honest guy, Drew, and I got to say, I got to eat a little crow. They did, especially they came on, a lot of them came on kind of late. In the year, but when I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of names in no particular order, but offense and defense, your Kyler Murrays, your Dwayne Haskins, Josh Jacob, Daniel Jones, the Brown boys, AJ and Marquise, Deebo Samuel, who's got one more game left, TJ Hawkinson, McLaurin, David Montgomery, DK Metcalf, Miles Sanders, N'Keal Harry, kind of the other side of that coin, did not have a really good rookie year. Drew Lock, Devin Singletary. Those are all just offensive guys. Then we go on the defensive side. You got Josh Allen, Max Crosby, my guy Devin Bush, Nick Bosa, Brian Burns, and Devin White, and the list goes on. When I'm really looking at these on paper and then realizing kind of the seasons a lot of these guys had, I gotta, like I said, I gotta kind of eat a little crow. I think it's the 2019 class, to me, did better than I thought they were going to do. And so, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I agree with you in a sense, but I think what it was really was, for one, no rookie. Like you said, a lot of these guys came on late, so it wasn't a full season of hype. Like a lot of guys, like obviously Hollywood had a big week one, but then he disappeared.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys didn't have. The last couple of years, we've been so spoiled with a rookie out of the gate just taking the league by storm, whether it be Dak and Zeke, take your pick. And this year, we had a lot of guys that, like you said, came on late, but I think it's spread out a lot more. I think it's a lot more from top to bottom. You look at this year's class, and, you just rattled off the names. You've also got McCole Hardman at wide receiver out in Kansas City. Yeah. Solid rookie who's getting better every single week. Now, a lot of these guys have issues that can be fixed. It's going to come with time. But, yeah, the 2019 class, I think one that was viewed as possibly a down year. Yep. I think whether that might be the new there's kind of this new trend in coaching now to almost coach your players to what they're good at, as opposed to trying to get players to fit a system. And I think you're seeing the result of that, is you're seeing a lot of these guys become the players that they can truly be.
Yep, and I think the other mistake I made, Drew, and I'll be the first one to admit those when I do them. They're very rare. Just kidding. But when I did do that comparison of the 2018 class to the 2019, I did it at the time before Baker Mayfield had that struggling year this year, before Sam Darnold had his struggles, and Saquon didn't have a Saquon year, part of that due to injury. But even when he came back, he had some kind of games. Some of that's obviously the line there at MetLife, but that some of that 2018 class that had really great rookie years, some of them kind of hit a wall here in their sophomore year, and not even a wall, but actually struggled. And so, it'll be interesting to see this 2019 class, like we both said, kind of came on late. What is their year two, kind of getting way ahead of ourselves, but what is their year two going to look like and compared to that?
I think you're going to see the same thing. I think you're going to see quite a bit of them struggle. I think there's a big difference when you've got film. There's a big difference when you have a different team. There's a big difference how your offseason goes. There's so many different factors into this, and let's be honest, you put 90% of football players, if you give a bigger sample size, stats are going to go down. It's just going to happen. It happens all the time, and so I would look for a lot of these guys, especially on the offensive side of the ball, where things can get so complicated and where there's so much innovation and just different ways. There's just so much different stuff going on. It can get very complex these days. I would expect to see a major drop-off just like you saw in 2018. But I do think, I would have to agree with you from the sense that I think 2019's class probably in the end, if you look at this class in probably 10 years, if you had to look at them, at both of them in their 10th year, I'd say you're probably looking at this class as being one of the better ones. I fell in love with this class watching them this year.
Yeah, I did a 180. I kind of went in sort of sour on them. Whether that was fair or not, that was just my opinion, my feeling. And, they swayed me. Now, there's some, that didn't. And what's funny? A lot of the predictions I made on individual players were wrong. I thought Kyler Murray was going to be borderline terrible, and we both know that's not the case. I thought N'Keal Harry was going to be the best receiver and a steal for the Patriots.
I still think he might.
Yeah,
it still could end up being.
No, you're right. But right now, it doesn't look like as on January 22nd, it's not the case. But I thought he was going to have a crazy good rookie year, and the guy I was kind of down at the same position, the one they're kind of compared with each other, in DK Metcalf. I thought he was not a great route runner. I thought he was going to struggle, and he had a great second half. And so, just when you think you know, you don't know, and Daniel Jones I thought was the Giants were crazy for taking him at the slot at 6, and he had some good games. Now he threw some interceptions, he fumbled the ball. I'm still not sold on him completely, but he did better than I probably would have pegged him for. So a lot of these guys surprised, and they're the ones that I didn't think necessarily would, and a few of the ones I thought would weren't the ones. I wasn't big on Josh Jacobs. I thought he wasn't a first round type of running back, and he played like a first round running back. So it's just crazy, and you never know. And then you got a guy like a Max Crosby, not highly heralded, and is a candidate. I don't think he wins it, but he's a candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So you just never know in football. Like you said, a lot of it's scheme. The new coaching style, especially with these younger coaches, is to highlight, to accentuate their players' best skill sets, and I think that's evident. And so you never know. And I think I've learned a personal lesson, maybe to kind of go in a little more open-minded and a little bit less opinionated.
Well, I think we're looking at, like, when I keep going back to this coaching, and some people may disagree, but I mean, you look at this new trend of these new coaching trees that are being developed are doing a complete different style, from GMs all the way down to lowly assistants. Like, it's a different type of football almost nowadays, and not only from what you see in the passing game, but how players are evaluated, how they're scouted, what they're scouted for. And so I think it's just one of those points where you look at some of these guys, like I look at McCole Hardman that I harken back to. He was drafted by Kansas City to do one thing at this season, and that's all he's done.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's it. And he does it great, and he'll improve, and he could become better than he is. If not, they found someone that does what they needed absolutely perfect. So it's an interesting time, but it's definitely, like you said, it's changing the way when you look at these players. It's not so much anymore, does he fit into a 3-4? Well, does it really matter, because they can scheme around that?
Yeah.
Like, if you can make him fit, can you coach him up and get the best out of him?
Yep. And McCole Hardman was drafted, I don't know if Kansas City will admit this, but when Tyreek Hill was in a little bit of hot water, and they thought he might be a cut casualty, they kind of hedged their bets with drafting Hardman. And now they have two guys that are kind of similar games. And, it's like I said on Roughing the Passer, I thought that speed was going to give the Titans trouble, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Time for a real quick break, but when we return, me and Drew talk about the upcoming Super Bowl. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA grading submission needs. They're constantly submitting, so they are always at the ready when you're ready. They offer various turnaround levels at the lowest prices around. Cards are insured to and from PSA at no additional cost to you. And they even provide the card savers your precious cards need to be put in before being sent to PSA. They take care of that for you. And because of their elite status at PSA, they have some of the best turnaround times around. They even have group chats for each submission, so you know exactly where your status is on your cards. They have open dialogue and open communication. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. So going into that, I know I don't want to steal all our Roughing the Passer material, but, the Super Bowl is, less than 2 weeks away now. How do you, without you don't have to be super detailed, but how do you see this Super Bowl going? You got, to me, the best defense in the league against probably arguably one of the better or best offenses. And if you subscribe to the defense wins championships theory, you take the Niners. And I'm actually a defensive guy. It's a position I coach that side of the ball.
Defense wins championships, but I think people are overlooking Kansas City's defense.
Yep.
But B, I could easily see, and this is why the Super Bowl is so interesting to me, and why I'm actually glad my team's not in it, because when your team's in the Super Bowl, you know this. Mine's only been in it twice, but you guys have been in it a lot. You can't enjoy the 2 weeks leading up to it. Like, it's miserable.
Yeah, well, I'm a nervous wreck.
Fans, this is a rough week and a half for them, right?
Yeah.
You just don't enjoy anything. But I can easily see this game going 3 different ways. It can be a great game, or I could make a compelling case on why either one of these teams would absolutely stomp a shithole in the other team.
Yeah.
It could easily happen. And I think this is going to be a fun game. I'm hoping for option A. I'm hoping that it's a close one. I want to see a shootout. I want to see a battle between these two teams. I'd also be happy with a 10-3 game, but I think we're going to see a mid to high scoring game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and my picks in my head, they keep bouncing back and forth. But if you had to ask me today, I'd have to stick with my original pick of the Chiefs. But just about every other day, I find myself bouncing back and forth. But today you caught me on the Chiefs day.
Well, I picked the Chiefs before the season started. I thought
that you did.
I thought they got really everything they need. I knew their defense was going to be better with some of the free agents and doing some different things. The one thing that made me kind of scared to pick them was Andy Reid. That whole he can't win the big game, and so
Charlie Browning.
yeah, and he hasn't done it yet either. So that's the big question mark. But I do think that's my pick too. I think it's a close game somewhere in the like we said like I said on Roughing the Passer, 28-21, 28-23. That day you thought it was going to be more high scoring, and it might very well be. I've done pretty bad when I've picked over and unders this year. It hasn't been my strong. I've been better at actually picking the spreads or the winners, and the over and unders have been. If I was just doing that, I'd probably be broke because I'm not doing very well. But like you said, I'm hoping for a good game. A lot of the talk I'm hearing on the sports radio side of things is, a lot of people are saying, well, Jimmy G's been to some Super Bowls with the Patriots, but I don't know if I really subscribe to that theory, because he was at the game, but he was watching the masterwork. He wasn't
at the game about as much as the 50, 60,000 people that were there watching it were. Yes, I understand what they're saying as far as the experience and everything, because I've been to a Super Bowl before, and we're Panthers season ticket holders, so I've been to plenty of regular season games and a Super Bowl. It's a different atmosphere. The pressure's different. I can see how it's magnified a million times. I understand how it's all different, and I can see how that could weigh on a team. Do I think his preparations as a backup and his time spent sitting on a bench with a tablet or whatever he used back then are going to help the 49ers? No, not at all.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page with you. I mean, the only advantage...
You got a week and a half of radio to fill. Got to come up with something. So
I think the only advantage that gives Jimmy G over Mahomes is in the stuff off the field, because he's done that portion before. But neither one of these guys have played in the Super Bowl, so they're starting from the same starting block there. And if we're comparing quarterbacks, I already know your answer, but I'll throw it out there anyway. If I could have my druthers or choice of either one of these guys to play in this game, I think we're both taking Patrick Mahomes over Jimmy G. And so I put the advantage, at least in that position, on the Kansas City side. And so, watching Brady, that might have been fun. Get your rings that way too, but it's not the same as playing. And going out there in front of that many people in the stadium and knowing how many people are watching the game, that's a whole different animal. So I don't give Jimmy G any kind of advantage like other people are trying to at all.
No. I mean, it's gonna be two guys playing in their first Super Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, it's Jimmy G. I mean, they're starting in their first Super Bowl. They're gonna be getting their first playing time in a Super Bowl. I don't see that being an advantage anywhere. I think if anything, where the advantage might come into play is, once again, I kind of probably sound like a broken record, but we'll go jump into coaching and Mr. Shanahan and his epic collapse against the Patriots a few years ago.
Yeah.
That might have some experience factor into it.
Yeah.
I'd imagine I would hope you took a couple of coaching lessons from that beatdown. But that may give them a little bit of an edge. But no, I don't subscribe to Jimmy G having any sort of edge over Tom Brady or over Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, me either. And like you said, I think they're trying to drudge debates up and conversation up, and that one ends quick for me. Is you got, like you said, you got two guys that they're playing in their first Super Bowl, and that's all you need to say. So moving on from the Super Bowl, Drew, I know you've talked about this on your show. I've talked about it on my show, the Panini blockchain. There's been 9 cards sold now. Before we even talk about some of those sale prices that have been realized, is, they're getting beat up as to be expected, and probably should for the quality control. A lot of people are upset that these are sticker autoed cards. Some of the stickers are reportedly crooked or covering like words or over words, and so it's easy to do, beat up on Panini. But you know what? There's sometimes when it really is warranted, and when you have an innovative product, whether you like it or not, it's innovative, and you got sticker autos. I know that's always a bugaboo for people. I think people were holding out hope that these would be on cards. They're not.
For good reason. For good, I'm just going to stop you right there real fast, and then you can continue. For good reason. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the blockchain stuff. I mean, are you really surprised that it's...
No, I'm not.
As it is, I didn't think so, and I don't think any of your listeners are either. I mean, when I look at this, and it's just like the conversation I had with Brian Gray last week. I love this idea. I think the blockchain idea could be used for so many amazing things in this hobby. And Brian mentioned a few that I hadn't even thought of, such as documenting jersey cards, keeping inventory tracks that can't necessarily be done in the quality control process. Like there's advantages to this technology that can make the card industry a million times better. Yeah. But this system and what they're using it for is not it. Now, is that a good introduction into it? I don't know. Maybe that's a good time to dip your feet into it. I personally would worry about being able to handle a first off the line order before diving into technological advances, but to each his own. Yeah. I think it's a very cool idea. I think if executed correctly, it could be a lot of fun. I would like to see how they plan on implementing this into cards that are in packs, which they've already stated they're doing this year. So I am interested to see where this goes and the strategy that they have for it, because like I said, there really is the more I learn about it, when I first heard about it, I thought this was absurd. I did not understand it, but the more I've learned about it as I'm writing a few pieces on it and interviewing different people, the more I realize that there's a lot of good things and a lot of good uses that this can do for the hobby. What my hope is that this initial introduction into it, when it ultimately, which I think it will, I could be wrong, but when this ultimately dies by the wayside, when the hype is gone from this, which I think will happen if they don't alter their approach in some way, shape, or form, I hope it doesn't sour people on the idea altogether. Yeah. Because there's so many other ways this technology can be used, and I don't want people to hear the word blockchain and automatically think it's always going to be like this Panini release right here, because that's not what it is. And so that's my biggest concern, because I do see some very positive uses for this technology.
Yeah. I mean, it is innovative, whether you like Panini or you're a Panini hater or whatever category or classification you fall under. It is an innovative concept. We could argue how they did it, but like you said, someone else can kind of use their example and maybe fine tune it, or them themselves. If like you said, people don't write them off and kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater.
They can have 20 different. This could have been, like I said, this could have been just phase 1 in a 20-step plan they have to introduce blockchain technology, and then they could already have all these things I'm describing mapped out. Like I said, my biggest concern is, this has never been in the hobby before, which is what my concern with the Topps and StockX offering was.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I would have picked to start with.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, when we see that second release, how is it received from the casual people that they drew in? Because I've seen so many times in this hobby where first impression is so important, whether it be a product, a technology, a release style, whatever it is. You see so many people move away from stuff that they just don't like because there's so many other options. And I just, if we're talking about wanting this stuff to succeed, that's my biggest concern, is that a lot of companies are just putting things out that I don't necessarily think are just strategically the best things to start with, but I don't know. Maybe that's why they're getting paid to release it, and I'm not.
Well, my thing too with a lot of these, and not just Panini. I'm not going to pick on just Panini, but a lot of these companies, when they do something new, they just kind of overkill it. You know what I mean? Panini's already, in this case, since we're talking about it, has got the next wave, and it's going to be wave after wave. When you keep doing that, to me that's the old saying when TV shows used to do it, like jumping the shark. It kind of, the bloom comes off the rose. It's not a neat concept anymore. And
well, I think this is what you're going to see this year. I think if we're looking at this year and what we can expect, and Stu and I used to always talk about this, is what are we going to see like a year from now in the hobby?
Yeah.
I think when we're in December, if we have the same conversation, we look back at this year and we're going to be talking about all the different ways that technology is being implemented into this hobby. I think you're going to start to see a lot more of the investment aspect. I think you're going to.
That's a bad word.
I think you're going to hear a lot of that stuff is going to trickle in and continue to trickle in. And I don't know. I think this is the year. This is going to be one of those years where you're going to see a lot of pushing the envelope. You see Leaf putting out a first off the line type system. I mean, you're seeing Upper Deck doing, which they're kudos Upper Deck. They do some of the best online stuff in the world. I would love to see what they could do with a blockchain type technology. I think, and who knows, that might be in their plan. But I really think that Panini may have wanted to get out first with this blockchain stuff and dive out there when they saw the top StockX stuff. And I don't know, just from interviews I've had with different people in the past 2 months, a lot of people, even Brian Gray himself, said that they can expect to see a lot of advances in uses in technology in 2020. And so I think that's kind of just where we're at in this industry.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right on the money there. And you know the deal. It's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses, It's like it's like living next door to somebody and your neighbor gets a nice gazebo and you got to top that and do something better and bigger. And so, I don't want to go into it too deep when like Topps is doing the 1,000,000 card rip and Guinness Book of Records is going to be there. And so now the ball is going to be in another company's court. How can we top that? I put a joke post on Twitter that Panini was going to do a 2,000,000 card rip in space and let all the base cards just float away and bring back all the inserts and signed and autoed cards. Obviously a joke, but a joke based on kind of how what's really going on, and like you said, it's just what's next, and that's really, let's be honest, it makes what we do interesting, not only as podcasters but collectors as well, and so
it makes the entire hobby interesting. When I started learning at that Podagraph over 3 years ago now, we would schedule and map out episodes like weeks ahead of time, and there wasn't daily happenings. I mean, there were, a card got pulled or something, but there weren't $80,000 sales 7 times a week. There weren't, a revolving cycle of news and updates. I mean, there was a revolving cycle of news, but not in the hobby. It just wasn't an everyday thing. We'd be sitting here trying to figure out, okay, well, I guess we'll talk about redemptions today just because. And now you've got, like you said, you've got something every other day. There's some sort of development in something. And it's a testament to how big it's gotten. It's a testament to how good it's doing. And I think you've got to give everyone from the card companies down to collectors a hand with that, because as much as you see people complaining about the cards, people can't get enough of them. I think complaining is in people's nature these days, and so I think you just have to accept that now. And I think it's wonderful where we're at in the hobby, and I think that is another example of it. I think when you see this type of innovation coming into something, I always harken back to it's good for it. I mean, it may not last. It could go away. In 2021, blockchain could be a thing in the past and never heard from again. Yeah. Half these programs could die by the wayside, or they could end up being staples in the hobby forever. Either way, it stirs up the hobby, it generates some interest, and, it keeps things exciting.
One more quick break, but me and Drew will be back to talk about more of this year in the hobby.
For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cars has set the standard in customer service in the hobby, including same-day shipping. They've added trading card supplies and wax products to their already impressive arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autographed and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards or go to bit.ly/Newman Sports Cards. Give them a follow on their social medias, on Instagram, Newman_sportscards, and on Twitter @NewMSportsCards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. Newman Sports Cards, for all your hobby needs.
To me, when I look back, now that we're in 2020, and I look back at the 2019 hobby year, I think the thing that stands out for me, Drew, and I think you'll agree, is the hobby's always had some big years and big, even decades and stretches. But 2019 to me was the year where the hobby spilled into outside the hobby, where it went into mainstream news media. Some of that obviously due to some of the negative stories and scandals, but even more than that, it wasn't just the negative, but even some of the positive stuff made it into the mainstream media. Jimmy Mahan, someone we both had on our shows, a great guy. That story transcended past the hobby and into the mainstream. The scandal, obviously, same thing, but even other stories got outside the hobby scope. And so to me, 2019 was the year that hobby escaped its own box and went into that next level.
I think it really, and I've said this a couple of times, and I don't know if people really quite understood what I meant when I said it, but I think it kind of had some built-in safeguards in 2019. That have really built up the hobby and kept it strong to prep it for a down year, as opposed to maybe how it was a few years ago. I think that the interest is obviously at an all-time high. You're seeing a lot more people I know, just even with doing work with different companies, you're seeing so many new customers in this industry every single week, whether it be at the last card show I was at, talking to owners, online in break groups. I mean, it's everywhere. It's a massive influx into this hobby right now, and whether it may be, a lot of these people may be coming for the most non-pure reasons necessarily, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, is it that big of a deal? You know, I mean, is it really that important what their reason for coming into the hobby is to you? So, I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing, and you know, more attention on it is going to do nothing, but especially the one complaint I hear the most, young kids today aren't into it. Well, that attention is going to bring the young kids into it even more, which I disagree with the sentiment that young kids aren't in the hobby, but I had this discussion today, so it's on my mind. And it's just, I see nothing but good from it, but I'd agree that last year definitely was a major influx. We saw that at the National. A major influx of the outside hobby kind of coming in.
And like you said, I don't think that's necessarily bad. I mean, it's, you know, I guess it's the person you are. You know, are you the you know, the glass is half full or the glass is half empty? And those people are going to be those people. You can't win that room over if that's what their stance is. And
the way I look at it, man, I've seen so many people in this hobby that were diehard collectors that turned into nothing but flippers, and I've seen a ton of flippers that did nothing but turned into nothing but collecting. You never know. Embrace who's here. Enjoy it. I mean, it's the hobby. It's a blast. Let's have some fun.
That's what it really needs to be about at the end of the day. Flipping it back to the blockchain, Drew, I'm going to rattle off 9 of these things have sold. I'm going to just go down that list and what the prices they brought, and then just, you know, after I say that, what stands out to you with those. So Charles Woodson, obviously all of these are one-on-ones, guys. Charles Woodson, $653. Otani, which is a buttoned one-of-one auto, $1,795, $1,795. The next 3 cards all brought the same amount, which is $1,959, and that's the Jerry Rice, the DeAndre Hunter, and the Russell Wilson. Rei Hachimura brought $3,510 and $3,510. The 101 dual logo man dual auto, Ja Morant, R.J. Barrett brought $3,918. Kevin Garnett brought $4,653, and Patrick Mahomes was the highest one thus far at $4,979. What say you?
Well, interesting. Not too surprising, though, when I look at the ones that have sold. The biggest surprise would be that more didn't sell to me when you look at what some of the actual ending prices were. But, I mean, people like Charles Woodson, Kevin Garnett, those players you expect because they don't have a ton of stuff and they have a rabid fan base. Like, the Charles Woodson collecting market is enormous, so while that name may seem odd to some people, that's where it comes from. And Panini obviously knew that. When I look at that list, my biggest takeaway from all that is, wow, people are really high on Hachimura still, and I know he's hurt, but I'm not. I'm a big Brandon Clark fan, Jared Culver, John Morant. The John Morant I would expect to have gone a little bit higher.
That one.
I think when it's his single, it will. His single will.
But, you know, R.J. Barrett's actually been playing better, and you know, they are, for whatever, you know, even if you don't like R.J. Barrett, it's still it's a dual logo, man, both autos, only $3,900, and I say only $3,900 like it's something I have on my desk laying around. But like when you compare it to what some of the other cards brought, it seems a little bit on the lower end. I mean, like you said, the Hachimura itself brought 3,500. I would have thought a Morant, Barrett, dual logo man, dual auto would have brought more than $400
a lot
more.
Of collectors, I mean, a lot of the higher end people, when it comes to that stuff, they're sour when it comes to dual as compared to single players, and so that's why the jaw itself will probably, I guess, what did Mahomes go for?
4,979.
Okay, I guess jaw probably hits 5.
Yeah,
maybe 4 to 5.
Yeah, that's
being a rookie.
What I'm curious to see too with these, Drew, is what the secondary, what happens after the original sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we see the Morant and the Barrett at $3,900. Let's say Barrett really turns into what a lot of people think he potentially can be, and I hate to say it already, but I think it's a pretty safe bet, barring injury, who Ja's going to be. If Barrett turns out to be a pretty decent player, what does that card now do? What that person who paid $3,900 for it.
How are the transactions handled? Is it a digital only sale? And if it is, what does the ledger look like? And what does the ledger reflect the increase in price? And how are collectors going to relate that to other cards? And how is that entire ledger going to have an effect on the secondary market? There's so much stuff that we're waiting to see because we just don't have the data. There hasn't been this bum rush that I think they expected.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't expect it, and maybe they wanted it to. Maybe they wanted to slow play it. Maybe this is how they've envisioned it the whole time. I do not know.
Yeah.
But all I do know is that when that data comes and collectors are able to analyze it, well, they're going to do something with it, and I want to know what.
Yeah. And I'm old school. I think you're the same, but if I'm paying that kind of money for a card, I want that card in my house, or in the safe if it's that kind of level. But I want that where if I want to look at it and hold it and pull it out, that opportunity is there. I noticed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of collectors are like that, and that's why this could end up being where those actual physical cards end up going to collectors, and the digital is kind of where, like I said, if this ledger ends up having an effect on the secondary market, let's face it, if you were able to purchase said cards on a blockchain ledger that you have 100 of his autos at home for, and if you increase that price, that the secondary market is going to increase, well, then purchasing those cards can help you sell your cards for more. So,
yeah.
I mean, it can end up doing lots of different things. And so we're at a point where we're having to wait for data to be able to fully assess what the quote-unquote consequences, if you will, of those sales are.
Yeah, so many angles in play, and that that's like it or not, that's really the fun part of it. Is just seeing what's going to happen, and we all do it. We all kind of in our own minds, even if we don't say it on a podcast, we all in our own minds have our own thoughts to how we think something's going to play out. It's just like
speculation, second nature, man. We all do it. Some of us just hit record.
Yeah, and that we both do. And so, Drew, I know you're busy. You're a busier guy than even I am. So I don't want to keep it, but I want to say thanks for coming on. I know we don't get to talk that much, so anytime we can do it. But no, all joking aside, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your level of knowledge and expertise, talking a little football. I know we don't do that enough. But speaking of that, I'll do one of the plugs, and then I'll let Drew plug his own stuff. In case you haven't heard this 4 times during this show, myself and Drew do a live NFL podcast. It's the main show Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and now Periscope. And we do a Thursday preview show at 10 p.m. Eastern to lead up into the main show on Sunday. Obviously, we got just one game left, but we're still going to be doing the main shows on Sunday. We'll talk a lot. As we both know, there's no off season in football, so we'll be talking about free agency. I'm sure Tom Brady's story is going to drag out for probably a month, if not more. We'll be talking about that, coaching moves and schemes and all sorts of that stuff. We'll probably come up with our own, rankings list, the 10 top receivers in the game, running backs, quarterbacks, and maybe we'll do our own and kind of come together and compare notes. And so we're gonna have fun. The show's doing very well, so hopefully people keep enjoying it and that sort of thing. So I plugged that, but go ahead, Drew, give out what you're doing and anything you want to share with those listening.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, man. Always enjoy coming on the show. But yeah, definitely check out Roughing the Passer, like John said, and let me get that Podagraph is my main show. If you guys haven't heard, we are on all pretty much podcast networks, whether it be iTunes, Google Play, all that jazz. Besides Spotify. Not on Spotify, but everywhere else. And you can find us on Twitter at LGTP Podcast or on Instagram at LGT Podagraph. And I've got a new episode coming out this weekend. I know you guys are hearing this on Friday, so we will have a new one out on Sunday. So definitely check it out.
Yeah. Awesome. I listen, and I critique you. Usually it's pretty good, so. So, Drew, as always, man, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, and again, leading some of that insight. We've both done this a long time, so together we probably know a little bit.
I would hope so. I try and make sure that I'm at least educated on something I speak about. But nah, man, I appreciate it, and anytime, always happy to come on.
All right, man. Thanks.
No problem.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast, now on 10 platforms: iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Castbox, and Overcast. Listened to in over 26 countries globally, Sports Card Nation Podcast is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, all our great guests, and our tremendous sponsors for making us what we are today. As always, without you, there is no us.
All right, this is where we give you the contest word to get an entry into the giveaway for the PSA submissions from Iron Sports Cards. 5 free, 45-day turnaround. And that contest word is encased. Encased. E-N-C-A-S-E-D. Encased. So on any of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, private or direct message us the word encased. You'll get an entry. Go to our Twitter page, and I have a contest post. All you need to do to get another entry is retweet that. Or if you already retweeted it, get us the word encased to be entered. So you can have up to 2 entries to win those 5 free submissions through the Twitter retweet post and DMing us the word encased. So good luck. Hope you're a winner, and we'll announce the winner on our social medias.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
That'll do it for episode 60 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. I want to thank my buddy Drew Herndon for coming on and bringing that knowledge and discussion to the show. We talk a lot, but it's always, whether it's off the air or on the air, it's always a great conversation, and I'm glad to have him on. It's the second time he's been on the show, and not the last. And like I said, check our show out, Roughing the Passer, live video podcast, live on Facebook and YouTube, and now Periscope, and that's Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We do a preview show on Thursday nights at 10 p.m., kind of a shorter show, just previewing the Sunday show. We only have a couple more of the Thursday shows left. But even after the season's over, with the Super Bowl culminating, we're going to continue to do the Sunday show. You know, in football, as we all know, there's no off season, so we'll continue to talk about free agency, probably do some rankings, talk about some coaching maneuvers and that sort of thing, maybe some power rankings, who knows what. Always plenty to talk about in football. So check out that show. Give us a follow on all the social medias. If you Google Roughing the Passer podcast, will come up. So give us a follow. Check the show out. You get to see our ugly mugs. Mine's uglier. And we hope you tune in. We'll be back next week, episode 61. Baseball season's approaching quick, so things are going to get hectic, busy, and a lot of new releases will start to come out. Big million card rip in Dallas coming up, starting with that in the 2020 Topps flagship product for baseball. Pitchers and catchers are reporting soon. And before we go, one last reminder, don't forget to message us that contest word to get an entry to win those 5 free 45-day turnaround PSA submissions courtesy of Iron Sports Cards. All right, folks, we'll see you in 7 days. Thank you very much for being with us.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.